It's Tom Summers with Coldwell Banker. Many of you know me, but for those of you that might be tuning in today that are not familiar, I am a licensed real estate agent and I'm in the Minneapolis St. Paul metro area. I work the complete metro area. I was doing a lot of these videos and I kind of fell off because I was really busy, which is no excuse. So I'm trying to kind of get back into it now. And I'm always challenged by what should I talk about? What matters? What's important? What do people want to hear about? You never know what anyone wants anymore. Do you want to hear about interest rates? Well, I'm not the guy to really tell you a ton about that because not a loan officer. Do you want me to tell you that everything is going to be okay in the real estate market? I can do that, you know. So I wanted to just have an open discussion today and just share a couple of thoughts that I'm seeing that's going on right now. And this is October 31st, 2022. Halloween. So happy Halloween to all of you that are watching live, as well as any of you that will tune in after the fact. Things have changed. The market for the last several years was pure insanity. It was one of the hardest markets that I had to get through in my 19 years of doing this, because of the fact that it was so challenging and different, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. People were almost losing their minds and overbidding to the point where it's like it didn't make sense, and you couldn't figure out, okay, well, if I'm going to list this house, what should I list it for? And that's all kind of calmed down, and it's becoming more of a balanced market. But I want to talk about people who are predicting that this house market is going to crash. It's easy to jump on the bandwagon and be a hater and just make the assumption that all of this is going to explode and everything is bad and all of that. And I'm not a believer in that. I'm a believer in facts. And there are several things that just don't sit right with me right now. The biggest one is the fact that they're saying that we have at least a 7 to 10 year shortage of homes, which I think is way too long. They're saying close to 10 million houses need to be built right now just to catch up with the demand. I don't know if I believe that. So let's say 3.5 years. And I've mentioned this before. I think that that's probably a solid assumption at this point, that you're looking at 3 years before everyone got caught up if they just built nonstop. But that's not realistic. So I want to talk a little bit, for those of you thinking about buying or selling, where the impact lies for you on each side of the fence. Starting with the buyers, everyone's concerned right now because rates got as high as 7.25%, which is high compared to what it's been like for the last 8 or 9 years. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's ridiculously overpriced either. When my wife Cheryl and I bought our first home years ago, the rates were 10.5%. I've told this story before, and we were jumping up and down going, I can't believe we got it for 10.5%. So there is a buy down that had been going on for quite some time as we struggled through COVID, and we struggled through the crash of 2009 to kind of get the ball rolling again and get everybody kind of situated. With all these setbacks, rates stayed dramatically low. Now it's going to come back to a normal level of what historically has been the average, between 5 to 6%, from what I'm reading and what people are telling me. Right now, we've dropped about a quarter point. I believe we're a little under 7 right now. So you're going to start hearing all of these different ideas of how you can get in for a lower rate. And I'm going to say to you, always be leery of those, because you don't know where the hidden problem is in these. So rather than just make the assumption and hop onto Google and Google search something because it may or may not be accurate, I would say talk to loan officers, and talk to several, and ask questions. There is a common term you're going to be hearing that all of a sudden everyone seems to be using, which is marry the home and date the interest rate. Meaning, if you find a home that you fall in love with right now and you want to buy it, do that knowing that you're going to have to refinance in the future. So let's talk about the devil that's in the details of the refinance. Typically, you do not want to refinance your house unless you're going to save at least one whole interest percentage point. So an interest rate at 6%, you'd want it to drop at least to 5 or below before it would be worth it for you to refinance, because there's going to be closing costs and fees to the refinance. And they say, well, if you're going to save at least a point and you're going to stay in a house for at least 5 more years, then it makes sense because you're paying off that extra that goes onto your mortgage. So when you hear these people on the radio and on TV saying, we're going to refinance your house at no cost to you, that's not necessarily true. It's true that you don't have to bring any money to the table to do the refinance, but it doesn't mean that they won't backload it onto your mortgage. So if you owe $250,000, if you refinance right now, you'll probably have a loan for $255,000, and that extra five covers everything. So know your rates and understand why you're getting into what you're getting into. There is a resurgence of ARMs, which are 5 and 10 and 7-year ARMs. For those of you that don't know what those are a way to get into a house typically at a lower price than a 30-year conventional. A lot of people are scared of those. And they say, well, the uncertainty is just too much. Well, not really. Again, devil's in the details. So let's say you have a 30-year mortgage right now for 6.75%, and you could get a 10-1 ARM for a point below that, or half a point, whatever. It means that the rate that you're getting right then and there on that 5-1, 10-1 ARM is it stays at that rate until the 5 or 10 or 7 years is up. Then at that point it readjusts, but it can't necessarily jump up more than X percentage per year. So a lot of the people in 2009 got themselves in a lot of trouble because they took out ARMs, but they weren't really ARMs. They were more like a interest only loan. So when you make a payment and your payment is $1,000 a month, it usually works out that $800 of it in your first payment, or maybe even more, is going to interest, and $100 is going to your principal. So if you're only paying $500 a month on a $1,000 payment and you're short $500, that $500 was added to the back end of what the total amount owed was. Then the ARMs that they were using were changing after a year, and they could go up 2 to 3%. Then you really had a problem. So rather than make the assumption that all of this stuff is bad because some people have had problems, do your research, talk to different people and see what they have to say. The conversations I'm having with my buyers right now is essentially, when you find the home that you love, buy it. Because the nice thing about the rates going up is the housing prices are going down. The minute that the rates start to drop, all the buyers are going to jump back into the market again. And as soon as they do, the demand goes up even higher. And all of a sudden, then all the house prices go up because we get back into the bidding war. So being in this position with a higher interest rate isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. And we're still seeing multiple offers on properties, but we're seeing multiple offers on specific types of properties. The easiest way for me to say it to you would be this. Do you know what Pottery Barn is? They have a look and a feel to a lot of the products that they sell. And a lot of people, when you say Pottery Barn, it gives them an idea in their head. Whitewash walls, shiplap siding inside, granite countertops, or not Corian, but they have different types of countertops with like a slight gray line through it. Almost looks like marble. Stainless steel appliances, hardwood floors, wide plank, wider white molding, white kitchen cabinets. If you have something that looks just like that, there's a very good chance in any market that you're going to get multiple offers in something like that versus something that is 30 years older and needs updating. Doesn't make it a bad home, but we're still seeing multiples. So in all of this, you have to take into account, is the house worth it? Am I overpaying? What do the comps say? And where do I sit with a mortgage payment so that when I am ready to refinance in 2 years, I can do so and make it work to my advantage? I mean, that's what we did. We've done that in every single home we've ever owned. And I always knew when the rates were higher that we would refinance eventually because we had the house that we love. So that's the reason to kind of stick in there and be careful. Like I said, when you hear all of these things on TV and on the radio, it's usually too good to be true until you really get down to the bottom of it. So speak to some professionals that can help answer questions. On the sales side, for those of you that need to sell or want to sell or have to sell, whatever your situation is, it's a little bit different of a ball game because we're still in a shift now where it's not always exactly known where the price needs to be. So I'm going to go back to old school marketing here. Beyond doing all of the things on Facebook and different things that I do for my clients, I watch how many showings we get and how many hits we get on the internet on different types of platforms. And if those two numbers don't add up from a percentage standpoint, then we have a price problem. So right now, instead of houses selling in one day, now stuff is going to start sitting on the market for 30, 60, and 90 days, depending on price range, area of town that you're in, what you're selling. It doesn't mean that if a house has been on the market for 5 weeks that it's somehow bad. It just means that there aren't as many buyers right now because of the fear with the interest rates being higher and some of the uncertainty with the markets, as well as the election coming up and things like that. Everything has a way of sorting itself out over time. Don't be reactionary. Be proactive by making a decision based on facts and knowledge. So from a selling standpoint, just be ready that you're going to probably have a house on the market for 6 to 8 weeks or possibly longer. And you don't necessarily have to just start dropping the price, because if you only have a certain amount of buyers in an area, the price might not be the issue. If I show you, if you have a townhome, I don't know, in St. Louis Park, and your house has been on the market for 6 weeks, there's always things you can do to make it more appealing. Maybe you do need to do some painting, or you need a different marketing plan, whatever it might be. But if only 2 other townhomes in the last 6 weeks in this price range that would be considered your competition have sold, then really, are you overpriced at this point? So don't just go, oh my God, we got to drop, we got to drop, we got to drop, because that's not always the case. Then all it is a race to the bottom. You have to be willing to wait it out. And that's the thing that so many people have become accustomed to, is not waiting. They think that this is supposed to just magically happen like that, and it doesn't. And when it doesn't, they're deeply disappointed, because the market shifts sometimes literally overnight. And this last big wave from the spring is done for now. Doesn't mean it won't come back that way later. But for the sellers, it was a windfall, but it was miserable for the buyers. So now it's better for the buyers and it's tougher for the sellers, but no one's like miserable at this point. We got to give it time as the economy corrects itself to allow all of these things to kind of clean up, sort out, and level off. So this is more of a, hey, don't be scared if it's a situation you find yourself in. I don't know if this is useful for you or not, but this is the kind of stuff that I want to share with you. I don't want to share stats, and I know I need to get better at getting back on track with this. I made a promise to myself, but I've been blessed with a lot of business this year, and I have to put my clients first. That's the most important thing, which I think all of you would agree with. But I really want to get back to this, and I hope that this has some value for you. If you know anybody that's thinking of buying or selling that could use this information, please share this video with them. If you have questions, call me. I'm always available, and I'm happy to talk and answer any questions that you might have without any obligation. There's other weird things going on in the real estate market right now as well that I'll go into, but your feedback helps. So if anyone out there has an idea on what you would like to have me speak about, I'd be more than happy to do a video like this. I've had several people reach out. I did one on foreclosures. I did one on refinance not too long ago, and different things. So your suggestions help. I hope you guys have a great rest of the year, a wonderful holiday, and I'll try to be back next week. So thanks for taking time to watch. Thanks for sharing. I want to connect with you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and go Vikings.